We move on to the 14th of June, the last full day of flying from RAF Ford, with the wing making the move tomorrow. So squadron summaries: 441. The squadron on 2 occasions acted as low cover over the assault area. In the evening, 12 of our aircraft escorted heavy bombers to Le Havre. A few enemy aircraft were seen but not engaged by this squadron. We'll see the rest of the story on that in these 2 entries. 442 gives us dawn readiness, first takeoff at 0800, and then struck through 2 early returns, Flight Officer Caldwell and Flight Lieutenant Roseland, losing petrol. Others returned after an uneventful trip. Second trip at 1810 hours, returning from south of Paris, so I'm going on the assumption this was another sweep in conjunction with the normal patrol. So we've been seeing that pattern emerge here on these later patrols, unlike the 6th of June and the days immediately after the invasion, where the squadron's actions and the plan was explicitly for these squadrons not to leave their patrol area lest they be drawn off by the Luftwaffe. Now the course of action we're seeing emerging is to go out and actively try to find the Luftwaffe if they don't show up over the invasion beach. So back to the entry, didn't see any enemy aircraft on this patrol. Pilots sorted kits and packed their Spits for their early move in the morning, referring to getting their gear together and loading it onto the Spitfire. We remember that most of their stuff was packed up for the airlift over, and that the pilots that were flying over were just going to have enough on hand to be able to load onto a Spitfire and then catch up with the rest of their gear in France. So that's it for 442 Squadron. 443 we have for the 14th. Weather clear and warm, turning to scattered cumulus cloud later in the morning. Squadron took part in a beachhead patrol during the morning. A successful belly landing made on return by Flight Officer Monroe. 1 wheel tire had come off on takeoff. 2 escort patrols flown during the remainder of the day. A late area escort was flown by the squadron for Lancasters bombing Le Havre at 23,000 feet. 1 Dornier 217, that's a German knife fighter, was shot down by Squadron Leader McLeod, and a second probable by Pilot Officer Hodgins, as the starboard motor was seen on fire and it appeared to be going down into the channel. I think that was later upgraded to full credit for him. 2 other Dorniers were sighted by other pilots but could not be followed due to the darkness. And I was actually thinking about that, and I guess just to look at the takeoff and landing time for this last escort, 2200 takeoff, 2330 landing. I was also thinking about what time are they using. I've been assuming they've just been going off of Greenwich Mean Time this entire time, and I was looking earlier at sunrise and sunset times for GMT +1, or just the Caen Le Havre area for June of 1944. Sunset's a little bit after 2200 local, a little bit after 2300 GMT. I've changed from assuming these were all GMT to assuming they're all local times, just based loosely on this mission and the description of the deepening dusk about the time that they would have been heading home, about 2300 or so. Although, up at 22,000 feet, dusk is going to come on a lot later, so, well, I'm completely on the fence now. I guess here in the course of 30 seconds, I've talked myself in and out of one conclusion or the other about 3 or 4 times, but in either case, it was getting very dark at the time that they disengaged and headed back. So let's look at our individual missions. So I'm going to start with 441, and they go up on the first beachhead patrol, 0805 to 1015. And this is just the standard low cover patrol over the eastern assault area. 442 also participates and gives uneventful patrol the beachhead and assault area for approximately 1.5 hours. No enemy aircraft sighted. 443, weather clear and warm. Scattered cumulus cloud, 8/10 at 2000. Visibility good. Aircraft took off on beachhead patrol. No enemy aircraft and spotty flak interference. On return, Pilot Officer Monroe made a successful belly landing, 1 tire having come off on takeoff. Aircraft categorized Cat A, so that would have been back in the lineup practically immediately. So the next mission up is in 1805 to 2005, another patrol of the eastern assault area by 441. 442 records patrol of eastern assault area for approximately 2.5 hours. Uneventful, no enemy aircraft, nil flak. And 443 gives us 12 aircraft on a patrol of British beachhead area. No enemy aircraft activity, and patrol completed without incident. Now I have this coming down here south of Paris simply because the 442 Squadron summary mentions returning from south of Paris, but didn't sight any enemy aircraft, so I'm just assuming here that this would have been another improvised or possibly planned from the very beginning sweep in conjunction with that patrol. That doesn't seem unreasonable, but in either case, that entire second mission of the day was uneventful. And then we get into the last mission. This is a 2200 to 2355 bomber escort, and 441 Squadron describes escorts of bombers to Le Havre. Few enemy aircraft were seen but engaged by 443 Squadron, while this squadron remained as close cover. So using escort tactics of the time, it would be kind of reasonable to assume that the squadrons were sort of staggered, maybe one at higher altitude out in front of the bombers, one squadron in close, and that from this description would have been 443, and then another squadron ranging out in front. And like I've mentioned a few times before, you can't really get tied down on a specific doctrine or specific tactics used. It varies so much from squadron to squadron, wing to wing, and time frame to time frame. So that's, well, just one way to do it that would have been pretty common at the time. 442 did not participate in this, but 443 gives us 12 aircraft departed on patrol and escort of a force of 220 Lancasters bombing Le Havre. Patrolled at 23, that must be 1,000 feet. At least 4 Dornier 217s were sighted by members of the squadron, apparently heading towards England. One was shot down by squadron leader H.W. McLeod from 50 yards range, and it was seen to crash in flames into the channel. A second was chased by Pilot Officer Hodgins, its starboard motor on fire, last seen diving away and apparently down in the channel. It was later confirmed as destroyed. Yeah, I thought earlier I remembered reading that. 2 others were sighted by pilots of Flight Lieutenant Prest's flight, but it was impossible to close with them in the deepening dusk. So that's it for operations on the 14th of June. We have the moved ALGB-3 coming up tomorrow, and the overall character of the missions are going to change slightly. And thinking about the original premise behind this series, answering the question, well, what would I do in DCS World in a Spitfire 9? The missions up to this point isn't really where I would start a campaign. If I were of a mind to design one, I would start on the 15th with the first missions off the continent. Well, for a couple of reasons. Number one, unless things change and we get RAF Ford or RAF Tangmere or something on the British coast, the only place to fly from are going to be the advanced landing grounds on Normandy. And that's fine. I mean, at this point, we're only 2 weeks into a 4-month look at operations in this area, so we're not really missing out on that much. And number two, man, these would be long, long missions. It would be fun, don't get me wrong. This would appeal to a lot of people flying across the channel and reproducing, if not these exact missions, then missions of the same overall flavor, but it's about a half-hour flight over, half-hour flight back. These are ranging from 2 to 2.5 hours every single time, so I just don't see that appealing to everybody. I think it would be fun, but I also think that the types of missions we're getting into after the move, scramble type missions where you're just going up, chasing down aircraft, or missions where it's just a matter of taking off, flying out and doing some armed reconnaissance on roads and then back, would have more of a mass appeal and would be more in line with the overall flavor of Operations in Normandy itself. I mean, this was an interesting 2 weeks to look at, but we have another 3.5 months. Well, maybe not that long in Normandy, but I plan to take this all the way out to operations in Belgium in September. But yeah, probably tomorrow is, if I were designing a campaign, today is where I would start. But yeah, this was very, very interesting background to look at, to see the landings and get an idea of what happened before the move to France and how these later missions differ from what the squadrons were experiencing beforehand. So I am greatly looking forward to picking things up tomorrow. So I'll see you then on the 15th.